Hello there, this is Pastor Siva Moodley. Today on the program, we're going to be discussing Revelation chapter 8. We're going to be talking about the 7 trumpets. We're going to find out why is trumpets so important? What do trumpets do? And why did Jesus talk about the trumpet sounding before the rapture? How will the sound of the trumpet impact us? Should we be using trumpets in our church all the time in praise and worship? So get ready for powerful revelation as we discuss Revelation chapter 8. Let's get into the message.
The glory of heaven, fill this house now! The glory of heaven! The glory of heaven!
It's Christmas time again, and what a joyous season.
We thank God for what He has done for us in 2020. It may have been a difficult year, but you know God is always on the throne. And He has given to each one of us His promise in Jesus Christ. Let's celebrate the Savior that our God gave to every one of us.
I am here with my sons and daughters, and we are so excited to declare to you that joy has come to the world. In a time when everyone is panicking and afraid, I want you to know that there is peace and peace through Jesus Christ. And our prayer for you is that you will experience the fullness of His peace, the fullness of His joy, and the fullness of His love this festive season. May this be the greatest Christmas you'll ever experience, and may 2021 be a year of breakthrough for you. We want to invite you to come and join us here at the Miracle Center in Kaya Sands, Randburg for Christmas. Join us with your family. We'd love to have you. And if it's not possible to travel to Johannesburg, you can also join us online on our global church. Whichever way you join us, it will be a pleasure and an honor to have you with our family, because our family loves you. We love you.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
We're talking about Revelation, and we're doing chapter 8. We want to do 8 and 9, but 9 is so intricate. There's so much to know in 9. I didn't want to rush it and go 8 and 9. And I want to just concentrate on 8, right? So we've spoken so far. We did Revelation chapter 6 last week, Tuesday. And now we're going to chapter 8. And in chapter 7, there was a pause. You know, just before in chapter 6, you know, you had all those seals being opened. All those doom and gloom coming on the earth. All the scary stuff coming on the earth, and then you had, you know, all the judgments coming on the earth. It was just so frightening. And then all of a sudden there's a pause in chapter 7. And in the pause, we find out about the 144,000. We find out about the people that are left behind. Now, I said to you that there is, in the book of Revelation, certain places there's some disagreements. For example, the one disagreement is when the rapture will happen. At the beginning of the tribulation, the middle, or the end. And then there's also a thing called a partial rapture as well. So I came to you on the 4 theories. I said to you, this is what theologians say, and this is what most theologians believe, and I believe as well. And I want to share with you another disagreement among top theologians around the world. Amen. And that disagreement is in terms of, will people get a second chance? Will people get a second chance? So you remember the Left Behind series? You guys watch the Left Behind movies, right? Yeah. He says in his books, and several theologians say, that if you miss the rapture, you will have a second chance where you will be martyred, you will be tortured. They'll come to you with your little baby that is just born, and they'll say, take the mark or we cut up your baby. And you have to choose between your baby and the mark. Or they might say, deny Jesus and take the mark. And if you say, no, I will not deny Jesus, I refuse to take the mark, Your baby will be murdered in front of you. You'll probably be burned alive, but you'll get to heaven. You'll be martyred, right? And that's what I shared with you last week as well. So there is a second chance to get, if you miss the rapture, there's a second chance, but it's a painful, traumatic experience, and you will be martyred. However, there are several theologians, very respected theologians, who say that there is no second chance. They say that if you miss the rapture, that's it. When they talk about those that come before the throne, they are talking about those who are persecuted for their faith. They're persecuted for their faith, and they are raptured up. So they say those people that come there and the martyred ones are those who are raptured, and there is no second chance. They are quite respected people. They have a lot of information that they have and a lot of scriptures that they use. So they say, that's it. So if you're watching me, they could be right. If you miss the rapture, that's it, it's over, right? And because that's what they believe very strongly. And then there's another group of theologians who believe that you have a second chance, that you will still get a second chance, and that's in the, that you have a second chance in the tribulation. You're going to be martyred, but you can go to heaven. I kind of believe that God will give you a second chance, even though it's a painful thing. But I could be wrong. The rapture could be it. So make sure you don't miss the rapture, because what if I and the whole lot of theologians are wrong? Yeah. Right? If we are wrong, that's it. If you missed it, you missed it, you missed it. It's over. I just want to share that with you because it is a gray area. Again, there's a lot of debate around it. And I would make sure I'd go up in the rapture anyway. Right, so we have this pause in chapter 7, and then the seventh seal is about to be opened, which is chapter 8, right? Now, something very interesting happens. So Kathryn, tell me, Revelation chapter 8, read verses 1 to 6 for me, please.
When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. Another angel who had a golden censer came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense to offer, with the prayers of all God's people on the golden altar before the throne. The smoke of the incense, together with the prayers of God's people, went up before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it on the earth. And there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Then the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them.
Wow. So watch what happens now. There is, first of all, John is watching. He's watching the meteoroids, the thunder, the earthquakes, the moon turning to blood, all those things. It's quite a scary thing. Then God does a pause, and now the 7th seal is about to be opened. But before the seal can be opened, there is there was so much noise in heaven, because we just heard there was worship. There was thousands upon thousands worshiping God. There is the saints that have been martyred that are crying out.
There's the 24 elders.
The 24 elders, they're falling before the throne of God. All of a sudden, there is a hush. Can you imagine heaven being quiet?
And it's long, half an hour.
It's a half an hour hush, right? And it's like God takes his finger and says, nobody speak. There's not a sound. No one's complaining. No one's crying out before God, avenge us, avenge us. The angels are not falling down. The elders are not falling down before the throne prostrate. There's no movement. There's no sound. Heaven is quiet, and not for 5 minutes, not for 10 minutes, for half an hour. Kathryn, why is heaven quiet for half an hour? It's obviously when everything falls to a silence, it's because there's an awe, there's something about to happen, and everyone's focused on what's about to happen. So why is there a silence for half an hour?
Well, like we always say, no, that's awesome, but awe literally means like a state of overwhelming, a state of something that's so incredible, so powerful, so majestic. So it's literally an awe moment where everyone's just silent. It's when something happens that's so powerful, you can't help but just stay quiet and try to absorb everything that's going on. And you see this, when you go to museums, they always tell you, be quiet. They always tell you, be respectful, don't say anything. And they'll even tell you, don't take photographs, because they want to keep that presence of awe, that presence of soaking in what just happened and what you're actually seeing. So this is exactly what happened.
I remember we went to the Louvre and we saw some.
We even went to the Alamo, and they tell you, make sure that you're quiet, that you don't take in front, just see and experience it.
Just look at, from what you see, you can imagine what took place. I know we just look at some of these paintings, like Renoir's paintings, and you just look at how it's done, the detail. I mean, if you look at the Sistine Chapel, how did he paint that in a time when the engineering had not yet advanced to a point, when maths had not yet advanced to a point?
Yeah.
And how did he do those symmetrical designs so perfect? How did he paint, and you just look at it, and there's an awe that comes in there. There's just an awe. I mean, even if you go to the Vatican, you watch the processions and so on, it's like an awe. And you can't speak at that moment because you say, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What is this? How did a man do this? How did the person paint this? How did they paint such detail? I mean, how is this possible? Even if you look at, you look at the church that burned down in Paris.
The Notre Dame.
The Notre Dame. And you look at how they built the Notre Dame. And how did they take those blocks? The Notre Dame was built over hundreds of years. How did they build it? How did they move? How did they shape those wood? How did they get that perfection? You're in awe when you see that. And here in heaven, there is an half an hour awe, because something so majestic, so amazing is about to happen. And we see in the awe that 8 angels make their way to the center stage, right? 7 of them are given trumpets, and 1 of them goes to the, he goes on solo. So he goes, and he has with him a little thing, a censer. So what is a censer, by the way?
A censer is like a shovel that they used in the temple to carry hot coals from the sacrifice altar to the altar of incense.
Right.
So it's sort of, like we have like a braai or a
barbecue, yeah?
It's used to scoop the hot coals that you would get burned.
Yeah. So sometimes if your coal is not burning correctly, you would spade it and put it to a place where it's going to catch a light.
Yes.
So they call that in the temple, they call it a censer, right? They give it a fancy name. It's a religious item. It's a item that is set apart, right? It's sanctified, set apart for the altar of God. So here, the angel in heaven, he's got a censer. He scoops up the coal from the altar, right? So tell me more. Read that part to me again.
Okay. Another angel who had a golden censer. So it's not just anyone.
It's a golden censer,
gold.
right? Well, in heaven, everything is gold.
True.
Heaven, everything is gold.
Amen.
Now, there is a belief, by the way, if we come back to gold for a second, there's a belief that gold is not natural on the earth. I've been told that, I've read some books, and scientists have said, why is gold so expensive, and why is gold always keeps its value, unlike all the other precious metals? Why is it that gold never loses its value? And why is it that investors always invest in gold when the economies go down? Because they said gold is not a natural element on the earth. Gold comes from outer space.
You can't create it on earth.
You can't create gold on the earth. It comes from outer space, right? That's what the scientists have said. And we know where gold comes from. There's a place where gold is so abundant that the streets are covered with it. So gold is that heavenly element. That's why it always talks about gold in heaven. And when the glory comes, gold comes out of people's hands. Why? Because heaven comes, and the presence of heaven releases what's natural to it. It releases gold dust. So that's why, sometimes in our meetings, people get covered in gold dust. People are curious, like, how did gold dust, where does it come from? Well, gold dust is not a natural element. It's not natural, it's a heavenly element, right? So when you have a gold ring, you have a little bit of heaven in your finger. Amen. Anything here that's gold is from heaven. Now, let's go back. So he takes the golden altar, he takes the shovel, the censer, and he puts the coals on the golden altar, the altar of incense in the heavenly tabernacle, right?
So another angel who had a golden censer came and stood at the altar.
He's the eighth one. He's the eighth angel.
He's the eighth one.
Right?
He was given much incense to offer. And incense is wood chips, a little piece of wood that will be soaked in these ointments, in these aromatic things such as frankincense.
Well, what does it represent in the Bible?
Well, incense in the Bible represents the prayers of God's people.
Of God's people, yeah. And here we see that under this altar was the martyred saints. Remember, they were under the altar.
And they spoke, they prayed.
So they were
without
praying,
fear.
yeah. So this is the prayer. Now, it takes the incense.
Yes, so he takes the incense. He was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all God's people on the golden altar before the throne.
Right.
So he puts it on the altar, and the smoke of the incense, together with the prayer of God's people, went up before God from the angel's hand.
Right.
So when he puts the coals on, there's this huge smoke that comes up.
Right.
Then he takes the censer again,
Right.
fills it with fire from the altar.
Right.
Not incense, this time it's fire, and he throws it on the earth, and
Right.
then counts those peals of
So
thunder.
what it's saying here is that these people that are praying in heaven, their prayers have gone before God. The angel takes the shovel. I'm calling it a shovel, right? Please forgive me. You know, some of you guys say, no, well, it's not a shovel. So, okay, so the angel takes the censer and he takes the coals from the censer now. It's been sanctified by these prayers. He takes the coal and he shoves it to the earth. When he does that, the seven angels that are there with the trumpets, the seven angels with the trumpets, right? So this is the sound that's made from heaven. Close your eyes, everyone, even those of you watching me in the live stream. Amen. Close your eyes. Wow. Hear it again. Yeah, let it play. Wow. Now, the angel blows the trumpet. And the moment the angel blows the trumpet, guess what happens? There came
Hail and fire mixed with blood.
hail
And fire,
and fire mixed with,
blood.
and it was hurled to the earth.
Earth.
Right? So watch this now. The angel, the eighth angel, takes the censer, throws the coals to the earth. And then, as the coals are moving to the earth, the first angel blows the trumpet like we heard, right? When he blows the trumpet, on the earth, whatever was thrown to the earth by the angel turns to hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled upon the earth. And what was the destruction? A third
Of the earth was burned up.
of the earth, 1/3 of the earth was burnt up, right?
A third of the trees were burned up.
Right.
And all the green grass was burned up.
Wow. The first three trumpets that we're gonna are judgments to the earth. Judgments to the earth. The first three trumpets, right? The next four that comes after that is judgment to the people because they refuse to repent. Now, talk about global warming, talk about all that stuff, right? All, the global warming and the greenhouse effect and all that stuff. That is like child's play compared to what's going to happen now. Okay, you're going to see real global warming, real destruction of the earth, because 1/3 of the earth is burnt up. 1/3 of the earth is burnt up, literally scorched. No one can be on that spot because you get burnt. The 1/3 of the trees are burnt up, and 1/3 of the green grass is burnt up. So take the whole earth, only 2/3 of the earth is unburnt. And what caused it? It was the sound of the trumpet. Now, the sound of the trumpets is celebrated in the feast of trumpets, right? So this is the first trumpet, that sound, and we see that there's the fire that comes. It says two things happened. What was it again? Read to me again.
We see
hail and fire mixed with blood. There's hail and there's fire mixed with blood. So the fire could be lightning that hits the earth, could be lightning that hits the earth, right? We don't know that. But most likely, the fire is burning sulfur, because we saw earlier on, God throws sulfur on the earth. When did it rain sulfur? It rained sulfur in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Genesis 19:24. Now, I watched a documentary recently on Sodom and Gomorrah, and they went to the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah that were destroyed by sulfur. And if you go to Israel, and we're going to go do a tour to Israel next year, I'm going to make sure that we go to these cities, because as a tourist, you can go there and they sulfur balls, right, that are all over the city, but only in the spot, only in Sodom and Gomorrah. So the sulfur, when it hit the earth, the sulfur balls, they kind of encase, it's like these chocolates you eat, what did they call it, and you...
The hidden centers.
The in center, right? You hit the chocolate and you get the inside, wow, it's different. So you get these balls that are all over the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, because there was sulfur that hit the earth. And so you can just open the bowl and there's pure sulfur inside. So the scientists, what they did is they investigated the sulfur. They said, well, maybe it was natural or something like that. And they found out that this sulfur does not exist on the earth. It's so pure, it's not terrestrial. It had to come from outer space because of the percentage, the purity of the sulfur. And it's only where Sodom and Gomorrah existed. So you can see the destruction of one Sodom and Gomorrah. You can see what they worshipped. And you don't have to wait for the tour. You can go and Google it, modern Sodom and Gomorrah. And you can see how the scientists will show you the sulfur balls that hit the earth. So the hot sulfur, when it came down, it literally burnt everything. Now, I used to work as an engineer before, a chemical engineer. And one of the plants I went to was a sulfur plant. And you have to have all the safety equipment, the masks. I still can't understand how a little cloth mask protects people from COVID. You need to go into a sulfur plant. That's the air you use real masks. Real one. Because you're in a place there, if you take that mask out, you will collapse, you will die. Wow. Because sulfur is so toxic. And the level of sulfur in those plants is very low. Very, very low compared to the heavenly sulfur. Because these are sulfur plants and the sulfur is actually mixed with another chemical. And so the idea is that you shouldn't breathe in the sulfur dioxide, because you'll fill your lungs and you'll die. It's a low concentration, but you have to have all the safety equipment. If you don't have the safety equipment, that sulfur can burn your skin and burn you. It'll put a hole in your lungs. And this is just low-level sulfur. Low-level sulfur in a chemical plant. So I had to go a few times as an engineer, as a chemical engineer. I had to go into the sulfur plant with all the stuff and take all the precautions. It's not a nice thing to go into a plant where you have the sulfur coming out. But you learn how sulfur burns the skin, burns your nostrils, burns your mouth. It's like, it's similar to, in the riot they have this tear gas, right? Tear gas burns your eyes and so on. But tear gas is mild, extremely mild, compared to sulfur. So the sulfur is toxic, it burns your skin, burns your eyes, it burns you literally. But the one that comes from heaven, that is top grade, high grade sulfur. So as it's coming to the atmosphere, you can imagine before the sulfur even hits you, it burns you. It burns you. It burns the buildings. It burns every life form that's there. It just instantly burned. So we're going to have, with this first trumpet, You're going to see a rain of sulfur on the earth, right? A rain of sulfur on the earth that's so toxic, so corrosive, that by the time it touches the earth's surface, everything around it is incinerated. It's burnt. No life can exist in that sulfur. No life. Just like in the days of Sodom, God always does things in cycles. He always does it in the Old Testament. He repeats it in the New Testament. He doesn't bring something new in the New Testament and say, well, this is something that's modern. No. He's done it before. He's done it before. Right? He's done it before. So, just like he rained on Sodom and Gomorrah, there was fire and hail and brimstone. And when the sulfur, by the way, when the sulfur comes into the atmosphere, one more thing. The sulfur comes in the atmosphere, it starts to burn. It becomes like ball of fire because it's mixing with oxygen and other elements in the atmosphere. So it burns. And so here it says, let's go back here. What did it say? It said it was hail and fire that came down. And it mixed with blood. Well, what blood? Well, there's various interpretations for that. Because the sulfur will burn, there's going to be blood everywhere, the river of blood, right? They found, scientists have found blood in Sodom and Gomorrah, blood even wrapped into the sulfur balls, and they were able to go and check the blood and things like that, because when the sulfur came, it burned people's flesh. It burnt them, and the blood mixed with the sulfur. So there's going to be blood, or because of the fire, because remember what's happening here is the forest is burning. Yeah. And when the forest burns, there's going to be fire everywhere. So the only thing you're going to see in the sky is a red sky and a blood red sky. So there's various ways we can look at this, but the bottom line is simply this. There's going to be a rain. There's going to be a rain, and the forest is going to burn. Imagine the Amazon forest burning. The Amazon forest burning. Imagine that. And 1/3 of the earth is going to be burnt up. And pray that you're not in that part of the earth, because you'll be immediately incinerated. Immediately incinerated. So this is the judgment on the wicked. Right? The judgment on the wicked. Now, not only that, once the hail comes, there's going to be air pollution.
Wasn't that a powerful message that you just watched? Now, in case you missed anything or you just want to hear it again, I'm going to encourage you to go to our YouTube channel. We are the Miracle Center on YouTube, or simply go to sivamoodley.com/YouTube, and that'll take you to our YouTube page. Make sure that you follow us on all the social media platforms so that you can stay up to date. And also join us for our live stream services. We stream every Wednesday, Sunday, and Fridays, and you can find out more info on our website. Make sure that you watch all these episodes, stay tuned, and get ready for what God is about to do next in your life. So remember, miracles are normal, and we'll see you again on your miracle moment.